Ladies, today's video is going to be a long one. It's going to be a long one, so sit back, enjoy the topic. Enjoy the topic, or maybe putting some hand lotion on, or maybe jump on a cardio machine because you're going to get a long cardio in today. We are talking about all the things juicy. Menopause and marriage, long-term marriage and intimacy, disappointments, all of the things. Speaking of juicy, next week is it next week I talk about this? I think so. Let me check. Next Tuesday, we're talking about this juicy lip plump. Yes, love it. Just applied it. But we have a lot to cover today, and it is going to be some good stuff. And let me share that based on today's topic and the last couple of videos that I shared hot topics like talking to our adult children who are parents about their parenting. Also, when you're in a long-term relationship or marriage and you're more positive, expansive, but your spouse or your significant other comes from the negative and narrow mindset or attitude. So those are two recent videos. Both will be in the description box below. And coming up soon, I am doing a live coaching call where you are all invited, where we talk about some of these hot topics that maybe we can't talk about with our loved ones because maybe they're the guilty party, or you have too many loved ones and friends that have a bias. So why not join me and other like-minded women's where we can talk privately and personally about private topics. And that is coming up. I will talk more about how you can register for that, when to join me at the end of this video. So let me just share that on a recent video, so this would have been a video where I talked about my cross necklace, which I don't happen to have on today. That video came out on a Friday, and on Saturday, I shared an Instagram stories, which I saved so that you can watch it because it's how this video got prompted. If you go to my Instagram, it's a highlight bubble titled Marriage Q&A. So you can go there. But what happened was I had a video go out on Friday where I talked about my cross necklace. The next morning, I jumped on Instagram stories to read a comment that came through on the necklace video, and I shared it here. Let me see if I wrote that right. Candy left a YouTube comment on my necklace video, commenting on my Friday Instagram stories. My Friday Instagram stories about my and Paul's recent anniversary, 33 years. In which I mentioned that it takes wit, grit, and perseverance for a long marriage. And this prompted me to open up my Q&A section and ask you if you had questions. And so not a lot came through, but they're all kind of on the same topics. So let me read to you a couple of different YouTube comments that prompted all this. Hi Tracy, just seen your Instagram story. I wanted to wish you and Paul a happy 33rd anniversary. My husband and I celebrated our 30th milestone wedding anniversary 2 days ago on May 20th. I had to laugh when you said on your story, and don't forget, if you want to watch that story, it's saved Marriage Q&A. But I had to laugh when you said on your story that it takes wit, grit, and perseverance. Girl, preach! LOL, marriage is not for the weak. And the big question, now this is what I shared on stories, the big question, do we sign a contract for another year? LOL. That made me laugh out loud and smile. Again, watch my Instagram stories. All jokes and much truth aside, I just want to say I feel good when I see others celebrating long marriages because our young people need the inspiration and example because we know marriages takes a whole lot of effort, especially as we change and grow individually. But to stick it out through the messy, tangly moments is so rewarding. And it is God's plan. And He honors our commitment and blesses our life and blesses our children's lives through the covenant He made with us for marriage. Your long marriage is a blessing and encouragement to others and to me. But heck yes, it sure does take wit, grit, and perseverance along the way. May God continue to bless your marriage with many more wonderful years full of deep love, lots of laughs, and good health. Amen. And that was from Candy. And I'm going to read to you my reply. Again, long video. Gonna get good. Stay the course, ladies. Thank you, Candy, for the lovely birthday wishes for Junie Bug, because our oldest granddaughter, June, turned 4 on our anniversary. And the anniversary wishes for my husband and me. Happy 30th anniversary to you and your husband. Such a noteworthy milestone. Yes, wit, grit, and perseverance. It's not what you hear most people post or say when sharing the news of celebrating their long covenant of marriage. Still, I believe if you've been married as long as you and yours, and me and mine, while you indeed feel blessed in all the things that most post and say, the reality is you've overcome much opposition. I've relied on my husband in those times, and I've relied on God, and I can say that relying on God's hand has served me better than relying on my husband. Right there could be some food for thought. Who are you going to fill your voids? Who are you seeking validation and acknowledgement from, and then they fall short, right? Maybe you're looking in all the wrong places. You mentioned growing individually, and often when I coach women, I find they desire to do deep work on themselves. Their growth landscape often looks different from that of their spouses and can cause friction due to control and judgment. This compromises the union and the couples grow apart. Many stay, although deeply dissatisfied, for the kids and grandkids. After all, who wants to sever what they've spent their entire life building? So much is at stake. It's a whole mess in its own right, and who has the endurance to tackle such an undertaking? Again, there's a lot of relationships out there and a lot of long-term marriages out there, and while it may all look perfect and enduring and all the things because we judge, right, from what we see posted on social media, but I work with a lot of women, and I have for 17 years, and I've been in a long-term marriage. And I would just say this, don't compare your relationship or your marriage to anyone else, because what happens in the four walls of one's home is something you will never know. So, something to think about. While women are plugging along, working on the inner, their husbands are busy doing deep work in areas outside themselves. Frequently, this is where the messy, tangled moments or seasons take root. Couples get out of sync because priorities shift and self-absorption, self-protection, self-pity, self-rule, and self-centeredness manifest, dulling what once was fruitful. Individual work is not wrong, whether inward or outward. Still, a couple must be willing and intentional about growing together. Long-time married couples will face many adversities and must pull together as a team, making the Lord the center of their desires and marital destiny. When both are not affirmed in truth, the Word, and rooted in faith, the enemy will pounce and attempt to destroy any chance of symmetry, leading to dissatisfaction, often bitterness and resentment. And we're going to talk about some bitterness and resentment and how it shows up in the bedroom or maybe other places that you once got it on. I told you, folks. It's going to get juicy. We're even talking about vaginal cream today. It's going to be worth sticking around. It's going to be worth sticking around. I love it. Any couple can endure a lifetime together and have love, appreciation, affection, harmony, and tools to overcome opposition take severe wit, grit, and perseverance, and the big daddy of them all, the Holy Spirit. God bless you, my friend. March on in faith. I love Candy. She's been a long-time follower and just always, sometimes I just get so giddy, and literally giddy, when certain ladies show up in my YouTube comments because they're just a long-time commenter and they provide so many wonderful nuggets. So this prompted me to ask you if you wanted me to do a marriage Q&A where we kind of unpack intimacy in long-term marriages. And I don't exactly believe intimacy is always sex, but maybe it is because maybe I'm looking at it from affection, right? Affection is one thing, maybe intimacy is another, but we all have a different lens that we see from or a different landscape. Anyway, I opened up the question boxes to you, and I'm going to pepper them around, pull them up as we plug along because a lot of them kind of are similar and go together. Before I dive into the YouTube comments, also, this is another YouTube comment question that prompted me from Claudia. Hello, Tracy. I would like to thank you for all the information that you always share in your videos and Instagram stories. I look forward to hearing all your gold nuggets in all different areas of life. I have a question. Have you ever made a video talking about menopause and intimacy? If you have, could you please share where I could find it? That question also triggered me to talk about this. And I do have other videos that I filmed in the past having to do with relationships, marriage, intimacy, all the things, and I will have a video library below. But let me start with the questions. And some of these are so similar that I'm just going to read them and then we're going to address it. So one person puts, no spark, too busy. Another one, lack of desire. How to be interested when finding sex uncomfortable due to menopause dryness. Do you believe in scheduling planned sex? Ways of cultivating intimacy except the bedroom. And advice or suggestions with lack of interest to be intimate in the bedroom. Supplements or teas. Okay, so a couple of things going along the intimacy and menopause, the lack of desire, no spark, too busy. Here's the big message that I have. At the end of the day, if you don't have interest in being intimate, I think it's important to identify why, because many women in their menopausal years contribute lack of interest to menopause. And I want to challenge you. Now, if you're having how to be interested when finding sex uncomfortable due to menopause dryness, that's one thing. So let's talk about that. If sex is uncomfortable, it would make perfect sense that the desire would be gone, right? Well, not necessarily the desire, but because it's uncomfortable, you're not really going to be jumping up and down. Right? Who's with me? This is very common, and this is where estradiol vaginal cream comes in, and this is not a sponsored post, but I do want to share this, especially if you, I would say, are in your 40s and you're starting perimenopause. And you may not be aware of this, but it is very common for women to atrophy. Okay, believe it or not, your vaginal wall can atrophy where a man cannot even get his, I hope that I don't get flagged if I say penis. You wouldn't think I would, but a man can't even get his organ in because the vaginal wall has closed in. So he can't even make penetration. That is such a thing. And vaginal dryness is very common, which often doesn't actually show up until menopause. So vaginal atrophy can start in perimenopause. Vaginal dryness can come with menopause. And both can be a huge barrier to intimacy. And this can play an impact on the relationship because being intimate is something that is part of a union and a marriage. And here's another thing about this. Elderly women have a lot of issues with UTIs, urinary tract infections. Think about it. Does your mother have a lot of UTIs? Are you starting to have a lot of UTIs? These are all, everything I just shared, the atrophy, the dryness, chronic UTIs, all can be prevented. And how you do that is you get on an estradiol vaginal cream. So this is not HRT. There's not enough estradiol in this to make it an HRT if you are anti-hormone replacement therapy. Getting a prescription of vaginal cream in your perimenopausal years is so important because what it does is it prevents that atrophy. It prevents that menopausal dryness because you're keeping it nice and plump and nice and juicy and moist in there. I'm coming out with it, okay? And this will help you to not have those later years UTIs. I will be using a vaginal cream the rest of my earthly life. Fortunately, I started using a vaginal cream before I experienced any of this. So when I got on this, my doctor shared, you're still pretty youthful. Things are still good. You still have moisture. You still have vitality there. We want to maintain that. Not only for you and your comfort, but also your partner because it can be such a barrier. If you're already there, I don't know how much a vaginal cream can help if you're already into that menopausal dryness or atrophy. You'll have to talk about that with your doctor. But if you're younger, get a vaginal cream. I use it about every 3 days. They give you a little thing that you can insert and put in there. But basically, I just put a little bit on my finger. I go up, swab her around in there, and keep her nice and youthful. Nice and youthful. So that's my recommendation about finding sex uncomfortable due to menopause dryness. Now, lack of desire, no spark, lack of interest to be intimate. Check yourself. Is the lack of interest really that you don't have a desire to be intimate? Or is it the unhappiness you have now with your spouse? Okay, because I will share, I've coached for 17 years and I hear a lot of dissatisfaction in relationships. If there's bitterness, if there's resentment, for whatever reason, and you and your spouse have not worked through that, especially if you're in a long-term marriage, if you have not worked through some of these issues, there's probably some bitterness and resentment, and that is going to tax any desire for intimacy, any spark, any desire. So it may not be that you don't enjoy sex and that you're still not feeling the oomph and the spark and the all of that, but it's the status of the relationship where I just have no interest in you anymore in that way. And that's coming from a place of bitterness and resentment. Let me share some more questions. Well, here's one. I do want to read this. Hi, Tracy. When did you start talking with your kids about sex life? What age were they? That's a parenting question, and let's get to that when I put parenting questions out there. But let me read some more. How to let go of disappointing actions by your spouse and not feeling like a weak woman for doing so. I don't understand the weak woman. I guess she's saying because I can't let go of disappointing actions, I'm weak. I would love to explore that in coaching. But how to let go of disappointing actions. Here's another one. How to keep attraction alive while disappointments, heartbreak, and illnesses pile up. Here's another one. How to move past disappointment or disagreements. Again, if there's disappointment in the relationship, there's probably a pattern that's over and over and over. He always, he never, right? He always does this, and you have bitterness and resentment about it. He never does this, and you have bitterness and resentment about it. One thing men need to realize, and they're no different than us, we all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, and we all want to be understood. The demise of relationships often are coming from a place of not being seen, not being heard, and not being understood. And what happens is resentment and bitterness builds up. If you've had anything major happen in your marriage or long-term relationship, let's say infidelity, let's say some type of abuse with a substance, let's say alcohol abuse, some type of substance abuse, that can play a role. Also, if your spouse is, let's just say, lazy, they have no drive, you're doing all the work and they just kind of sit back. Maybe you kind of were the one that raised the kids, that took care of everything. Again, bitterness and resentment is often the culprit. So I can't necessarily help you have more intimacy in the bedroom, because if you have bitterness and resentment, you're not going to want to get it on. You may do it if he's making the attempts in bed. You know, you're rolled one way and he starts to do the feely and you just give in because it's just easier, and there's nothing wrong with that. We do need to meet our partner as well. I do believe our responsibility in a marriage, in that union, is to meet each other's needs, right? If you're giving 50 and he's giving 50 and you join together, here's the thing, it's not always going to be in that balance. There's going to be days and times where you're giving 80 and he's giving 20. There's going to be times where he's giving 70% and you're giving 30%. But if you were to look at the last year, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, would you say that there's some harmony in as far as balance? That at the end of the day, if I look at it, we're kind of 50-50 with the responsibilities and with all the other things. If that's the case, you're pretty much a team. Often what happens is that isn't the case. That hasn't been the case, and it's years and years and years of your 80% to his 20, and that creates bitterness and resentment. And while, yes, you may be giving into his prompting to be intimate because it's just easier that way. I mean, I've been married for 33 years. I can't tell you how many times my husband has gotten sex just because it was just easier, right? I may not necessarily be in the mood, but it was just easier. And at the end of the day, part of my responsibility is to please him, just like I expect him to please me. So he's not always going to give to me what I want, and there's going to be times where he has to suck it up and give me what I desire, which may be listening, seeing me, listening, hearing, right? It just depends. All relationships are different. So Don't judge yourself, but if you're constantly giving in, yet you have no desire, that is going to get old over time. I'm just giving in, but I have no desire. It's going to get old. You have to lay it out on the table. The other thing I share all the time, and watch my last 2 videos, believe people when they show you who they are. If you're sitting around expecting that your spouse is going to show up in a different way, sadly, most people, even you and I, we change our ways for maybe 2 weeks and then we go right back to our default. The other thing is many women are at this stage of life. They are on a journey to find themselves in these pretty much getting into empty nester, or you're in an empty nester. You're finding your purpose. You now are in this position where you're not raising kids, or they're older. Or you're like me, you're empty nesting, like Paul and I. And now you're wanting your spouse to fill the void that the kids once filled because you were so busy with the kids. The other thing too is often the bitterness and resentment in the relationship may not show up until later because you're so busy with the hustle, burning the candle at both ends, the go, the kids here, the kids there. You don't really have time to stop and pause and self-reflect, spend some quiet contemplation and looking at your life. And then you realize, wow, there's really nothing here. We could go to dinner and we have nothing to talk about, especially now that the kids are grown and gone. This all takes a toll on the sex life. This all takes a toll on the bedroom. So what you have to do, and I don't have those answers, is you have to find ways to rekindle that romance. Maybe go on some trips or vacations together, do some more date nights. But the big one is you need to communicate. You must communicate to reconcile the issue. This is what I need from you. And I fully expect you to show up in that, but I'm also going to pull my weight by showing up as well. So that's really the big thing. A couple of other questions that came through, or just sharings. I'm in my late 50s and my beauty has faded. I am disappearing. Very interesting. I've never heard that. No confidence or self-esteem. And then another one, 28 years together and sexless. This is not that uncommon. Not sure if I'm physically attracted anymore. Here's the thing. I would say that men, and I'm not a man, so I can't fully speak, but based on just my observations in life, they can be turned on physically. They can be turned on easily by the physical, right? I mean, if I get undressed in front of my husband, poing, poing, and like I'm 54. This is not an attractive naked body, but to him it is, right? To him it is. I mean, he's still, we're aging. We know this is what our bodies look like at this stage. Same with him. But for women, if our husband undresses in front of us, we aren't going to bat a lash most often and be like, get the juicy out. Maybe there's something to use to get things juiced up if you need it. There's plenty of those products. But we're not typically like, oh, honey, what's going on over there? Oh, like that would be my husband if I took my clothes off in front of him. I have to go hide if I don't want the whole, what's going on over there? Let me, if you know. But, we're not typically doing the same thing. Here's the thing. Your beauty has not faded. What's faded is how you see yourself, okay? You're getting older. It's not going to go backwards. So your beauty hasn't faded. Your perception of yourself or your comparison to people, women of a younger generation, that could be your problem, and that's going to compromise your self-esteem. When I look at women and I want to get ideas for how to dress, how to do things, I'm looking at women my age. Okay, I'm not looking at women my girls' age in their 30s and their 20s. That does me no good. So watch what you're allowing in, because what you allow in will manifest. What you think about, you bring about. What you focus on expands. If you see yourself not physically attracted and you're focused on that, it's going to expand. We create our reality by what we choose to think, feel, and believe. If you believe you're unattractive, if you believe your beauty has faded, well, then I guess it has, because that's your belief, that's your truth, right? But it doesn't have to be that way. Berating your body, berating your looks is not honoring God. It's not honoring you, okay? Are you stewarding your thoughts? Are you stewarding your words over you? Because if you see yourself as faded, if you see yourself as unattractive, it will play a role in the bedroom. So it may not be menopause. It may not even be bitterness and resentment towards your spouse. It could be bitterness and resentment towards you. Always remember, other people look better to us than they do to themselves. I may feel fat one day. We all do. Even smaller people who are fit have days they feel fat. Let me know if you're fit. If you're fit like me or lean, if you have days you feel kind of fat. Please leave that in the comment section below, because we all have days we don't feel great. We don't feel our best. Maybe we don't feel attractive that day. But at the end of the day, beauty is so much more who we are inside and how we show up. Again, positive and expansive, negative and narrow. I just talked about that in a video. Our thoughts and feelings play such a big role in how we see ourselves, how we view ourselves inwardly and outwardly, and it will affect how we show up in the relationship. So I think the biggest thing I'm trying to drive home is you have to look at what is actually taking root. What is really taking root in my relationship? Is it that I'm in menopause and I have lack of interest or desire? Is it really a menopause thing? I would check yourself there. I'm in menopause. My desire hasn't changed at all. I know we're all different. And, you know, I've got keeping things moist and working. But my, what would you call it? Libido, I guess? Yeah, my libido hasn't changed. Also, having your hormone levels checked. If your testosterone is tanked, you know, some of us, I produce a good amount of testosterone. It shows because I get a lot of hair, a lot of facial hair. But if your testosterone has dropped, if that's tanked, that could play a role. So there's so many variables. If that is truly what's taking root, then I would say get your hormones checked. If you're not doing hormone replacement therapy, I have so many thoughts around that, but to each their own. But I'm sure a lot of things are compromised. A lot of things, including you're looking at osteoporosis and many other adversities. So again, what are you doing to keep things at optimal state for the stage, season, and age that you are? Most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be. So are you happy with yourself? Because you do have to be happy with yourself first and foremost to be able to be happy in your relationship. Now again, if there's some resentment and bitterness that's taken root, you need to bring that to the surface and figure out what you're going to do about it. Do people change? Often they don't. I know a lot of the things in my 33 years of marriage that would be maybe annoyances that I have about my husband. They're still there. They're still there. And guess what? It circles back the same way because I'm pretty sure any nuances I have, annoyances that I bring to this 33 years of marriage probably are the same too. Who knows? I don't ask. I don't know that I want to know. Also, your feelings are your responsibility. So just identify. I'm bitter. I have resentment. The years of this or that has taken a toll on me, and I have bitterness and resentment. And when you want to sit down and have a conversation with your spouse that goes something like this, listen up, punk. No, I'm joking. I have some concerns, and I need to bring them to the table because our relationship is compromised in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, and everywhere else. And we put on the mask and we put on the happy face for everyone else, our kids, our grandkids, the people we're around. But at the end of the day, I have some bitterness and resentment, and I'm going to unpack it. So let me know when you're ready to talk about that. Because we want to approach everyone when it works for them if it's on a topic like that. And when they're ready to talk, you share that I expect you to fully listen and understand, because here's what can be the downside, and I have this in my marriage, and I have to call it out sometimes. If I share with my husband how I feel about something and there's a negative to it that he could be feeling, he'll tell me I'm wrong. Well, we can't, that's not being seen, that's not being heard, and that's not being understood. No one can tell you what's wrong for what you're feeling. What you're feeling is very real. So I know how to approach him after many years of being told I'm wrong, that what I'm about to share with you is very real to me. I completely understand it may not be real for you because you're not the one feeling it, but I'm feeling it. And I expect to be heard, and I expect to be understood. And I fully expect that we resolve this issue. Doesn't mean it always happens. Again, 33 years, you endure a lot, but your feelings are your responsibility. In my relationship with my husband, my feelings are my responsibility. My feelings are not his responsibility. Here's the other thing. Don't complain about anything. If it's within your control, do something about it. If vaginal dryness is an issue, do something about it. If you've lost your zest or desire, what are you going to do? First, what's taking root? Do something about it. If it's not, you're just wasting time and energy talking about and thinking about it. So let me read this again. Don't complain about anything. If it's within your control, do something about it. If it's not, you're just wasting time and energy talking about and thinking about it. Here's the last question. Well, let me see here. Last one. Nope. Okay, no, I got that one. Let's just say, do you believe in scheduling planned sex? Sure. Why not? I mean, if that, at the end of the day, nothing's off the table. Whatever works for you and your spouse, run with it. If it's working and it's not broken, okay, why are we fixing anything? Do I think that you should try to incorporate some spontaneity? Sure, absolutely. And flirt. When is the last time you flirted or even said some things that are a little bit raunchy? I can be really good at that. I can throw out some raunch with my husband. And, of course, that right there is a turn on. So have a little fun. Quit being so serious about everything. Your kids and grandkids aren't around. Have some fun. Grab something on his body. Just be sure you're ready to go to the bedroom if you do. So, what are you putting in, right? But again, if there's bitterness and resentment, the last thing you want to do is even touch, look, talk to, smell, anything. You're annoyed, you're disgusted, they gross you out, right? And that's bitterness and resentment and nothing more, because at one time you were turned on by this person. So something creeped in and it took root. You have to figure out what it is. And are you taking it to the Lord, right? Are you welcoming the Lord? Hi, did you plan date nights when your kids were little, teens, or vacations for just you and Paul? Yes, we did. Not a lot. We had 5. We were on a very tight budget. We chose for me to be a stay-at-home mom. Paul had a good career with good pay, but it wasn't like we were business owners. He wasn't into sales. He had a nice salary, but we had a big family. So we lived a pretty tight budget most of our marital years, especially raising children. And we still run a tight budget. And we have much more freedom today, but we're still tight with our money, and I'm proud of that. That's served us well. So I think I covered everything. Here's the thing, ladies. I have more to unpack as well, and it's not going to be on a public platform. I have some things I can share. There's some wild and crazy adversities that Paul and I have had to overcome and still sometimes continue to overcome. What I would like to propose is I'm opening 2 opportunities to attend a live coaching call with me. It will take place on Zoom. I have one offered on a weeknight at 7 p.m. Eastern. That is so my United States interest, viewers, subscribers that are interested, or clients. If you're Pacific time zone, it's 4 p.m. Hopefully you can get out of work a little early. So it will be late for me, but I will be available at 7 p.m. So there's one date that's on a Thursday coming up. And then I'm opening up a Sunday afternoon as a second opportunity. These will not be recorded, because we're going to be unpacking a lot of personal stuff. You're going to bring some of your personal stories to me. I'm going to do a little coaching around them. If you have a question for me, again, what Paul and I do and how we do things isn't really going to help you. We need to look at your situation and what you need to do. So I'm going to be able to get a little bit more personal because I don't expect to have a huge turnout in these group coaching, and we're all going to kind of work together. So I'm opening that space for you to come in. This is a way to work with a coach. It will be in a group setting. Present your situation or question. I won't be able to go in major depth, but maybe from there you'll choose to work with me one-on-one. But it gives you an opportunity to talk to a coach, hear from a coach. Now again, I'm not here to advise anyone. You have the answers for you in your relationship, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to facilitate in helping you find what those are. So I encourage you, this is an affordable way to work with a coach, get a taste of it, and again, in a private setting where it's only the people that join. Nothing is recorded and being sent out later on. So I highly encourage you take advantage of it, and that's why I opened up 2 opportunities. So look at your best time between the 2 classes offered. They're the same thing because you're really guiding me. I'm there to coach, so I'm not coming to facilitate. I'm coming there to offer support on topics like this or topics to do with the last 2 videos that I shared. There will be a link in the description box below where you can see the 2 dates. Get registered, sign up, and plan to attend the live because it won't be recorded. And I don't offer refunds, so think about it. It's just too much work and too many fees to do that. So that should cover everything. Again, it takes wit, grit, and perseverance for any long-term anything long-term health, long-term relationships, long-term financial freedom, right? It takes wit, grit, and perseverance. What does that landscape look like for you? I leave you with this. Take some time to really reflect. What is the biggie? What is causing me to be where I'm at, where I have no zest anymore? Is it zest for the relationship? Is it really zest for the sex? I'd be willing to bet it has a lot more to do with the status of the relationship than anything else. If it's not, it's probably more of a medical thing, and there's blood work, lab work that can be taken to check your hormone levels to make sure that your dosages on your HRT. I am on an estrogen patch and progesterone. I don't need testosterone right now, and maybe someday I will. If I noticed my libido tanked, one of the very first things I'm going to do is get my labs ran. What's going on? Actually, because of some weight issues that are kind of not really making sense to me, I'm getting ready to have some labs done just because I'm believing some dosages may be off. And then again, if you're in perimenopause, before you get to a place. Not everyone's going to atrophy, but it's happened. I know, gosh, I know a couple women that literally were in their maybe late 30s, early 40s, and they atrophied that early on. And that sex can't even take place because he can't even get in. And it's a big thing. And then vaginal dryness, also very difficult, right? To be intimate and uncomfortable, and who wants that? If you're going to do something as enjoyable as make love, don't you want it to be comfortable and feel good, right? Hard to get pleasure without it. So look into those. Join me for some one-on-one girl time. I think that it will do a lot of us a lot of good. Everyone will benefit. No one will walk away saying, well, that wasn't worth my time. And it's nice to hear that other women are going through what you're going through, right? We get great, we don't wish our pain on others, but we get a great sense of satisfaction knowing we're not alone. Trust me, you're not alone. I've been married for 33 years. It's been one hell of a rodeo. Oh, I have some things. I have some things. Bitterness, resentment. Yeah, been there, done that, maybe still have some. We'll unpack that in group coaching. So I look forward to having you. Thank you for sticking it out in this long, juicy, moist, all the words that just people can't handle. But you know what? Sometimes we talk that talk. It can spark some things, right? Get some juicy going. Yeah, I think that's everything. Happy to have you here. So thankful for all of you. And yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks in live coaching. Don't forget, next week we're talking juicy lips, and check out the last couple of videos, and hopefully I covered everything. You know the comment section is there. Use it. I read those comments all the time, every single day, at least 2 to 3 times per day. So I don't miss anything in the comment section unless YouTube doesn't let me see it because someone screamed some hate out there or something like that. All right, I'll let you go. Take care. Bye-bye.